They were the most unstoppable force the NBA had ever seen. Shaquille O'Neal, a 7 feet 1 inch, 325-pound behemoth, dominating the paint with unmatched power and agility. Kobe Bryant, a relentless assassin whose work ethic and skill set were beyond his years. Together, they led the Los Angeles Lakers to 3 consecutive NBA championships from 2000 to 2002, forming a dynasty that seemed destined to last forever. But behind the glitz and glamour, a storm was brewing. Egos clashed, words were exchanged, trust was broken. Their partnership was as volatile as it was victorious. This is the story of how 2 of the greatest talents in basketball history achieved unparalleled success together, all while being embroiled in one of the most infamous feuds the sport has ever known. In the summer of 1996, the landscape of the NBA changed forever. The Los Angeles Lakers, a storied franchise desperate to return to glory, made 2 seismic moves that would define the next decade. First, they lured Shaquille O'Neal away from the Orlando Magic with a record-breaking $121 million contract, the most lucrative deal in NBA history at the time. Shaq was already a superstar, a 3-time All-Star, a finals appearance under his belt, and still only 24 years old. He was big, charismatic, and dominant, a force of nature in the paint, someone who demanded double teams and still couldn't be stopped. But while Shaq was the headline, the Lakers also made a quieter, but just as important move. They traded for the draft rights to a 17-year-old high school kid from Lower Merion, Pennsylvania, a kid named Kobe Bryant. He wasn't even legally an adult, but he had the killer instinct of a seasoned vet. He wanted to be great. No, he expected to be great. Jerry West, the architect behind it all, saw something special. And just like that, the Lakers had built what would become the most feared duo in the NBA. A generational big man in his prime, and a relentless, unproven prodigy with Mamba mentality before it even had a name. The potential was obvious. So was the friction. From the beginning, the chemistry on the court was promising. Shaq dominated inside. Kobe dazzled on the perimeter. And as Kobe developed, the duo became almost unfair. But behind closed doors, the tension was immediate. Shaq, established, goofy, playful. Kobe, obsessed, intense, hyper-focused. Shaq wanted to keep the locker room loose. Kobe wanted to treat every practice like Game 7. Shaq saw Kobe as a talented but arrogant rookie. Kobe saw Shaq as out of shape and not working hard enough. They were never friends. They were never truly aligned, but they were undeniably effective. And as the Lakers began to win, and win big, so did the belief that they could be the next great dynasty. From 2000 to 2002, the Los Angeles Lakers were untouchable. Shaquille O'Neal and Kobe Bryant didn't just form the best duo in the league. They were historic, devastating, and absolutely unstoppable when locked in. But here's what made them different from other legendary pairings. They didn't need love, they just needed the ball. Phil Jackson, the Zen master behind the Bulls dynasty, had just been hired as head coach. He was tasked with doing what no one else had, getting Shaq and Kobe to coexist and win. And in year 1, it worked. Shaq had arguably the most dominant individual season in modern NBA history. 29.7 points, 13.6 rebounds, 3 blocks, league MVP, All-Star MVP, NBA Finals MVP. He was unstoppable in the paint. No one could guard him. No one even tried. Kobe, still just 21, was evolving fast. He missed part of the finals with an ankle injury, but came back in Game 4, in overtime, to seal a legendary win while Shaq fouled out. That moment was a warning. Kobe wasn't just a sidekick, he was coming for the throne. The Lakers won the title, and the dynasty had begun. The 2001 Lakers coasted through the regular season, plagued by internal conflict and media drama. Shaq and Kobe were publicly jabbing each other through interviews, questioning effort, shot selection, and maturity. And yet, when the playoffs hit, they flipped the switch. The Lakers went 15-1, including a sweep of Tim Duncan's Spurs in the Western Conference Finals. Kobe averaged 29 points per game in the playoffs, matching Shaq blow for blow. In the finals, they beat Allen Iverson's Sixers in 5 games. Shaq took home another Finals MVP. But everyone saw it now. Kobe wasn't chasing greatness anymore. He was greatness. And that's when the real clash began. By 2002, the dynamic was undeniable. Shaq was still dominant, but showing signs of wear. Kobe was in his prime, and he wanted the spotlight now. They still won. They still punished teams. They still swept the Nets in the finals. But behind the scenes, it was chaos. Kobe was frustrated with Shaq's conditioning. Shaq was tired of Kobe's ego. Practices turned hostile. Post-game quotes became public call-outs. Phil Jackson called them juvenile egos. Reporters couldn't tell if the team was cohesive or imploding. And yet they kept winning. Because when the ball tipped, their differences didn't matter. What mattered was this: no one could stop them. After 3 straight championships, the Shaq-Kobe Lakers were on top of the world. But inside the locker room, it was a ticking time bomb. The wins couldn't cover it up anymore. The tension wasn't subtle. It was loud, messy, and public. And in the 2003 to 2004 season, everything finally exploded. Shaq and Kobe's relationship had always been rocky. But this season, it went nuclear. Kobe, now a full-fledged superstar, wanted to lead. Shaq, the 3-time Finals MVP, refused to give up control. Practices were hostile. Interviews were petty. And the media? They were loving every second. Kobe called Shaq out for being fat and out of shape. Shaq called Kobe selfish and hard to play with. They reportedly wouldn't speak for weeks at a time. And when they did, it was often through reporters or trash talk on the court. Even Phil Jackson, the man who handled MJ and Rodman, couldn't fix this. He later called coaching that Lakers team the most challenging year of my career. Despite the dysfunction, the Lakers loaded up for one more run. They added Karl Malone and Gary Payton, creating what many believed was a super team. But the chemistry wasn't there. In the 2004 Finals, they faced the Detroit Pistons, a gritty, defensive-minded squad with no superstar, just unity. The Lakers? They were anything but unified. Shaq and Kobe were feuding. Kobe was under intense scrutiny due to his off-court legal issues. Phil Jackson was done trying to keep peace. The result? The Pistons dominated the series in 5 games. It wasn't close. And just like that, the dynasty was over. The collapse was fast and brutal. Phil Jackson retired, temporarily. Shaq was traded to Miami. Gary Payton was gone. Karl Malone retired. And Kobe? He signed a massive extension and became the face of the franchise, alone. The greatest duo in NBA history was broken, not by opponents, but by ego, pride, and power. For years, Shaq and Kobe didn't speak. Their relationship was cold. There were moments of tension every time their paths crossed. Fans wondered, what if they had stayed together? How many more rings could they have won? Was it worth it? The truth is, we'll never know. But one thing is clear, they didn't lose because of the game. They lost because of each other. For years, they barely spoke. The tension that fueled a dynasty had now left 2 legends on opposite sides of history. Shaq was in Miami, then Phoenix, Cleveland, Boston, chasing one more ring, chasing closure. Kobe stayed in LA, determined to prove he could win without Shaq. And in 2009, he did. Kobe led the Lakers to a title against Dwight Howard's Orlando Magic. And in 2010, he did it again. In a grueling 7-game series against the Celtics. 2 rings, 1 message. Now I've got 5. Shaq's got 4. It was said in jest, but everyone knew the subtext. The rivalry wasn't dead, but what no one expected. It wouldn't end in bitterness. It would end in brotherhood. As the years passed, the hostility faded. Shaq began speaking with admiration about Kobe's work ethic. Kobe, too, began reflecting on their dominance and how much he learned from Shaq's presence. In 2015, they finally sat down together, side by side, for an unfiltered, no-holds-barred conversation on NBA TV. And what followed was one of the most powerful moments in basketball history. They laughed, they apologized, they relived the chaos, but this time with wisdom, not pride. Shaq: if we had stayed together, we could have won 6 or 7. Kobe: easy. I was just young, man. I had to learn. Shaq: I was stubborn too. I needed to grow up. The feud that had once torn a dynasty apart had become a symbol of growth, maturity, and perspective. Shaq retired as one of the most dominant bigs in NBA history. Kobe retired as one of the most skilled and relentless competitors the game has ever seen. They each had their own legacies, but the chapter they wrote together, it will always be the most unforgettable. 3 championships, a dynasty, a roller coaster of emotion, and the blueprint for the most complex relationship in sports. When Kobe Bryant tragically passed away in 2020, the sports world stood still. And no tribute was more raw, more painful, more real than Shaquille O'Neal's. On TNT, through tears, Shaq said, "I lost a little brother. I haven't felt a pain like this in a while. We pushed each other to greatness, and now he's gone." That's when everyone realized what they shared was more than basketball. It was real. It was family. It was forever. Some duos dominate with chemistry. Some dominate with friendship. Shaq and Kobe, they dominated with conflict, with competition, with fire. They weren't a perfect match. They were two alpha stars colliding in the same galaxy. And the result? 3 straight NBA championships, one of the greatest dynasties of all time, and a story that transcended the game itself. What made their story unforgettable wasn't just the wins, it was the emotion. We watched them rise. We watched them feud. We watched them fall apart. And then somehow, we watched them reconcile. They were flawed. They were proud. They were brilliant. And in that way, Shaq and Kobe were more than legends. They were human. Individually, they'll always be immortal. Shaq, one of the most physically dominant forces the league has ever seen. Kobe, one of the most skilled, mentally relentless assassins in basketball history. But together, they are the measuring stick for every what-if duo that came after. KD and Russ, LeBron and Kyrie, Harden and CP3. Even today's stars like Luka and Kyrie, or Tatum and Brown, they all live in the shadow of what Shaq and Kobe built and broke. Because deep down, every fan knows, if Shaq and Kobe had stayed together, they could have been the greatest dynasty ever. When Kobe passed, Shaq said, "We weren't brothers like we should have been, but we became brothers at the end, and I'm thankful for that." It was a reminder that life, like basketball, moves fast, too fast to let ego keep you from appreciating greatness when you see it. Shaq and Kobe didn't just give us highlights. They gave us a story, one with love, pain, pride, power, and ultimate respect. And that's why no matter how many duos come and go, there will never be another quite like Shaq and Kobe. By the hoop. How many rings do you think Shaq and Kobe could have won together? Was their split inevitable or avoidable? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and as always, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on that notification bell for more legendary deep dives like this.